Welcome in, everybody, to HTGS Reviews. And we are going old school for this movie review, just like the first movie review we did, which I think we reviewed 60 movies our first movie review, if I remember correctly. It's just going to be me and Dave today because we went to the theaters to see Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave.
Hello. It's nice to be able to get into the movie theater just like the old days and watch one of the newer movies that came out. And
Yeah,
that said, we're going to spoil this, so let it be
yes.
known.
First spoiler, Brendan Fraser is not in this movie,
That's right.
which is the weirdest marketing campaign they were doing for this movie. I don't know if you saw that, but they were just like putting it out there like Brandon Fraser, like, because I know they're doing another Brandon Fraser mummy movie, but like the whole campaign that like they were doing this on was Brandon Fraser's not in this movie. It's like, all right, dude, that's fine. Like, like, like I don't think that people are gonna think that an R-rated mummy movie is gonna have the Brendan Fraser tie into it based off those other movies. So like I just felt like you were doing more harm than good with that. You were making it, I don't know, it was just real weird.
Maybe. I think they might have been trying to separate themselves from the Brendan Fraser tie-in, just because the Brendan Fraser mummy movies are more like your Nicolas Cage National Treasure type adventure movie versus this was definitely a horror movie.
This was definitely a horror movie. We are going to get into it. Before we do, as always, Dave is going to read a synopsis for it. But as he said already, we will be spoiling this movie. So, Dave, can you hit us with a synopsis for Lee Cronin's The Mummy?
Yes. The young daughter of a journalist disappears into the desert without a trace. 8 years later, the broken family is shocked when she's returned to them. However, what should be a joyful reunion soon turns into a living nightmare as she starts to transform into something truly horrifying. So, we saw it in the movies, and I usually like to go into movies blind. This one was impossible to go into blind because it's called The Mummy. So you know what it's going to be about. And I knew it's called Lee Cronin's The Mummy, and I know Lee Cronin's work from Evil Dead Rise. So I kind of went in expecting it to be The Mummy with sort of some Evil Dead Rise flair. And I was very excited about it because I thought it was going to be awesome because a mummy is a pretty cool monster, right? There aren't a ton of mummy monster movies either. And the reason I think that mummies are such a cool monster is because they're real, right? These are real things that exist. They're scary because they triggered the uncanny valley in a terrifying way because they're corpses that have been preserved for thousands of years. And that, when you look at that, is frightening, even if you know it's not actually going to crawl out of its tomb and attack you. But I'm going to start right away with I wanted to love this movie and I just didn't. And we were going to review this right when we left the theater. And I was like, I don't know if I can. I got to think about this. I got to think about this because I want to love it. And I just don't feel like I love it. So I thought about it and I didn't love it, period. And I think part of it is the reason that I wanted a mummy and we got no mummy. Essentially, we didn't get 1,000-year-old reanimated corpse, right?
No, you got a whole different spin on it. And I'm glad we waited too, because I wanted to think more about this movie as well. And I have problems with the movie for sure. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. Thinking about it made me like it a little bit more, not like a ton more. Like my score hasn't drastically shifted, but it's probably a few points higher than it would have been. We'll get into that at the end. But to go off of your thing about the mummy, like I get that, like everything that you're saying about that, like rings true. The problem with doing a mummy movie is we've had so many zombie movies, right? And a mummy is sort of like a zombie. So when you're nobody at this point in life is scared of one zombie. We're all like, we could take a zombie at this point, right? So the original concept of a mummy movie was this one mummy that was going around and, attacking people. And now we're just like, all right, bro, that was the 1930s. It's 2026. We won't play like that anymore. stop your ass out in the pyramid. So just the whole point is they're just not as scary. So you have to do something different in order to invoke some sort of reaction, in my opinion, like for a mummy movie. That's why I think they did the action style in the 90s. They did that Indiana Jones style movie because they were like, can't just do regular horror with this. You got to make it something different. Whether you or don't like that, it had to be, they did something different with it. And I think that's the problem with a lot of Universal monsters in general is they've been around for so long that if you don't take a different twist on them or try to do something different, they're just not scary because we've grown up with some of these monsters for too long. Right?
Yep. I don't disagree with that. My pushback would be, well, then you didn't have to make a mummy movie if you didn't think you could pull off a mummy movie. But they shifted too far, I think. They're like, how do we make a mummy movie scary? How do we make it work in 2026? I know. We'll just take the mummy out of it and we'll do an exorcism movie or we'll do another Evil Dead movie and we'll just call it the Mummy. There was no mummy in this movie. That was my problem. It didn't exist. There wasn't one.
Yeah, and I'm not going to even push back on that too hard, because to your point, like you don't get the corpse. They do this whole different thing where it's the demonic spirit that they can't even keep it in one corpse. They have to keep shifting this demonic spirit and keep it bound in different corpses. They said they were on like their 86th or 87th body that they had tied this spirit to at this point. So, and then they bandage it up with like sort of like a protection spell or something like that, which I thought that was cool. I do like the concept of it, but yeah, I mean, it's like at that point, you're really stretching for it to be a mummy at that particular point. So I do get that, but I don't hate this movie.
Oh, I don't hate it either. My score isn't going to be a bad score. The bar I thought was set so high where with Lee Cronin's last performance, call it a performance, Evil Dead Rise. I loved. If you saw a review of that, you know how much I loved that movie. And this, the mummy idea is so cool with Lee Cronin's sort of Evil Dead Rise spin on it, which he did put an Evil Dead Rise spin on it. This movie looked a lot like Evil Dead Rise. I just thought it didn't work. I thought there might have been too many things going on too. It might have been had too many attempted identities, right? For one, it's called The Mummy. It takes place partially in Egypt. There is a tomb with, some mummy sort of vibes. And then you have a very heavy Evil Dead feel in this, especially later on in the movie when you have actual deadites in the movie, which they don't call them that, but they are there. They look like them. They act like them. For whatever reason, the mummy thing becomes contagious, like a deadite attack or a zombie attack. So for that reason, you had Evil Dead vibe, you had zombie sort of vibe, and definitely heavy exorcism vibes and demonic possession. So there was a lot going on here, and I felt like it was too much that didn't really gel together. And I think that's part of the reason why I just didn't love it, even though I wanted to.
Yeah, it does feel like they were like, we need you to make a mummy movie, and he was like, I kind of want to make an exorcism movie.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what he did. But my pushback would still be like, I like the sense that he took it a different direction. Do I think it was a perfect direction to take it? No. But I like the idea of there being a demonic spirit that they're trapping within these vessels from the ancient Egyptian times to present day, and trying to make sure that spirit stays hidden. And you can definitely see the tie-in to Evil Dead with that, right? Like 100%. I did listen to an interview with Lee Cronin. Shout out to Talk is Jericho. He was on there this past week, and he said a word in that interview that really made my ears perk up and my eyes perk. I was just like, oh, and God, what was the word? I think I told you it too. I was just like, I can't believe he said this. But basically it was like almost like continuity with the other movies he's made. like almost like he's trying to do a shared universe without saying that. And I was like, oh, so that makes sense. Like that's what
Shared
he's
universe with Evil Dead.
just, I think with all the movies that he's making, I think he's almost like trying to leave little tidbits that they're all in the same world.
Mm.
And I could be wrong. I could have misinterpreted that for sure. Definitely could have been one of the things I could have taken out of that. It sounds like he's doing a paranormal movie next. It'll be really interesting to see how he tackles that, especially because he likes to do so many practical effects. So I'm intrigued. I'll definitely want to see it. But getting back to this particular movie, doing he did too much. I think he hit a line and kind of crossed it a little bit where I think those bandages should have been on her longer somehow. And I understand why you'd want to take them off, but I feel like you could have made some of them stay on her and be like, look, if you take these off right now, it's gonna, you know, impair the skin or something because of whatever.
I
But
think.
yeah,
Sorry, I
good.
didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say I think that they should have just abandoned the mummy idea entirely. If you're not going to do a mummy, like if it's not 1,000-year-old Egyptian corpse that comes back from the dead, why are you calling it the mummy? Why are you trying to force this concept into this movie that has no mummy in it? It's not written for a mummy. Like, I don't think it matters if you put bandages on the girl. She's not. Was she even dead? I don't. Was what was so? It's not. I don't think there's anything that they could have done with this plot, the way the movie was written, to shoehorn the mummy theme into it. I think that they essentially abandoned the idea. They should have just fully abandoned it and called the movie something else.
Yeah, but if you did this movie, do you think that people would draw mummy parallels to it if it was called something else? Because of it's being started in Egypt and you have the body wrapped in stuff and the sarcophagus and all that other stuff. So,
No, I
like,
don't
would
think
you
so.
have that same issue
I
the other
think
way?
maybe if this movie was done exactly the way they did it, and then they just took the mummy name off it, people were like, yeah, it kind of feels like the mummy. I mean, The Exorcist technically started in Egypt also with a similar sort of
Yeah.
uh, idea there, and nobody's ever like, wait a minute, this is a mummy movie for The Exorcist. That definitely never happened. But yeah, maybe I'm just saying like they could have, if you're going to rebrand this and take the mummy name off of it and go with the same story, sure, move it from Egypt to somewhere else in the Middle East, whatever. What else is? I mean, the sarcophagus, I guess, but
Yeah.
there really wasn't much that ties this to the mummy monster idea.
I found the one thing I found weird about this movie is moving the setting out of Egypt. Like the family going back to the States.
Mhm.
I just I feel like you leave the family there searching for the daughter. Right? Like and you just keep the whole movie set in Egypt.
Yeah, they already abandoned they were kind of setting it up before the daughter went missing that he just landed a job in New York and he was going
Yeah.
to go to New York, take on that job, and then they end up in was Arizona or New Mexico, wherever it was.
Albuquerque, I believe.
Yeah, and so they end up in New Mexico, which is another desert, but it's like they abandoned the New York thing already. Why not abandon the New York thing and stay in Egypt? I think it's a good point.
Right. Um yeah, that's kind of where I thought that they sort of lost it a little bit. I get that they wanted to get back to the grandmother's house and you know have that room and all that stuff and sort of whatever, but let's start going through some of this movie, you know, some of the stuff that we did like about this movie, maybe some of the other stuff that we didn't like about this movie. Is there anything that really stood out to you while you were watching this?
I'll go over some things that I like because I feel like I'm dogging on it, and I really didn't hate the movie. I thought it was shot magnificently. I think that this movie visually looked fantastic. There were some really good special effects. There were some okay special effects too, but for the most part, I thought that it looked really well. It was shot really well. I thought it was directed, at least from a visual standpoint, really well. And a lot of gross out gore scenes were done very effectively. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe too many of them.
Yeah, maybe a bit much.
Not because I was overly grossed out, no, not like I was like, oh, this is too gross, but just because like if you do too much of it, I feel like it takes away from what could be more effective if it's used more sparingly in that sense. If you get like gore, 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 gross out, gross out, gross out for the entire movie, it sort of loses its effect a little bit. And I feel like it could have been more tactful if it was used more deliberately and less frequently. Also, I think if you take all of the gross out and gore stuff, uh, movie wasn't that scary. I thought I was doing positives. We're back to negatives. The movie looked great. That's my positive.
There is a thing that Lee Cronin does specifically from I haven't seen his first movie, so I'm only basing this off of two movies. But he is so good at setting up a shot in a way like with dialogue with two characters and just the way he frames the shot, making it very unsettling, just where they're standing in shot. And I find that pretty incredible. Like it does something to you. Like sometimes I'll have one of them like close to the frame and someone over here, and he's very good about getting that shot set up and knowing exactly what he's looking for when he's doing that. So I noticed that in the two movies that I've watched from his, obviously, and I think it's one of the most effective things that he does. Is like, yes, he's great at these practical effects. They look great in this movie. Some of them are real tough to watch in this movie. But I think he is really good at doing stuff to unsettle you before that.
Mm-hmm.
Like to really get that pit in your stomach before you get hit with that bat over the head, right? Like it's just like, and then it comes later, and you're just like, oh man. So that's what I enjoy about Lee Cronin's movies for both of them. Obviously, I liked Evil Dead Rise a little bit better, but I think he does that really well in this film as well. And I think he does really good dialogue between family members. We saw it in Evil Dead Rise. I thought the family dynamics here were pretty good as well. I liked Rise better, but this was still good.
I had some issues with some of the family dialogue in this, and I don't know if it was writing or acting, but I think some of it just didn't feel real. And I feel like there were some logical issues with the way this movie was written too, in parts. And so it's kind of hard for me to discern whether or not some of the issues I had were acting, writing, or just story logic. But I feel like the guy who played the father, I forget his name, he was in Midsummer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he wasn't great, but I thought the little girl was really good.
She was great.
I thought the mother was good. I mean, yeah, both actresses who played the mummy girl were good, because there was a younger version of her who was good, and then the older one who actually played the monster was excellent. So she was very good. But I don't know, the dad wasn't convincing, and I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was bad acting or bad writing for his character lines. But I don't know. I thought he was a little bit less convincing than he could have been.
I felt like he was sort of our focus, and then we lost focus on him for a little while throughout the movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought all of the children actors were great in this movie. He's done well in that department, because Evil Dead Rise was awesome too. Their children actors were really good in that as well. So he's nailed that. But I thought that, like, I think that the dialogue in general was pretty good. It felt real a lot of the time, and that's kind of what I want. It didn't feel like overly forced. Maybe you felt that way with the father, but I felt as a family unit they were really good together. Personally,
yeah, it might not have been acting. It might have just been some of the writing was weird, and I think it actually might boil down to some of like the story logic, right? Why did they discharge her from the hospital at all in that condition? That's weird.
I wanted to see the flight home as they were discharging her from the hospital. I'm like, they're about to fly her from Egypt to Albuquerque. What is that flight?
Well, no, did the plane crash in Egypt, or did it crash?
It crashed in Egypt.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah. And they flew out to Egypt for, why did I think the hospital scene was in Arizona? Maybe not.
No, the hospital scene was in Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they had to fly home with her, but we didn't see that. They
No.
were like, can't show that.
Yeah, I mean the condition they brought her home in was like she still looked like a corpse a little bit. And
Yeah.
definitely had some cycle, like there was no way they would send somebody home in that condition after the trauma that she had gone through. It was just so not believable. So I thought that was kind of weird. And then that was kind of an awkward setup for family dynamic moving forward for dialogue, because it's like nothing feels real now because this whole situation feels really fabricated, right? It just doesn't feel like something. So for me, that was kind of the turning point of the dialogue where I'm like, it just doesn't feel real. And when I can't buy into dialogue, when I can't buy into the story 100%, it doesn't hit right.
Yeah, and I think that's why it should have just stayed in Egypt.
Mm.
Like you just stay there.
Yeah, you could actually work that logic into, you're in Egypt, the hospitals probably aren't as good over there. Whereas, you're in the United States, they're like, no, we're going to keep her because look at her. Like, obviously, we got to figure out we're going to figure out what happened to her. We're going to figure out what's wrong with her. We got to hook her up with psychiatrists and whatnot. We got to do testing. She was missing for 8 years and she looks like a corpse. She's not going home, right? Whereas in Egypt, you might be able to explain that away, right? Like, we got to get her out of here, right? She just needs to be with her family or something. That might make more sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. How did you feel about the characters that were like the keeper of the demon, that family? We sort of open on that family. We follow them sort of throughout the movie. The mother is especially like the main priestess, I guess I'll call her,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word right now. We get I think one of my biggest problems is the VHS tape. Like I
Yeah.
get why they did it, but I was just like, I think I even turned to you in the movie when they went to the house to play. I'm like, they just had a VCR laying
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
in 2026. Like, not everybody has that, so it's a
Right.
good thing they had one. But uh, I get why they had to show it, but at the same time, I was just like, we're doing a VHS tape, really?
Yeah.
So,
Remind me, was that in Egypt or was that in Arizona, in New Mexico?
were they
Yeah.
filmed on the tape or were they played the tape?
Where they played the tape.
Well, they played it once in Egypt when the detective first got it. She watched it in Egypt,
Right.
and then she flew to
Yeah.
Albuquerque, obviously, to show them the tape.
Mm-hmm.
So a
Yeah.
lot of VHS tapes, a lot of VHS players going around in the
Mm-hmm.
world at that point in time. I thought it was an interesting story, but again, it feels more Exorcist
Yeah.
than anything than like a Mummy.
Yeah. If you're asking me how I felt about it collectively with the whole movie, I had already mentioned that I thought there was too much going on. So this falls into that issue of there's too much going on. But I mean, if you isolate that family dynamic, it was probably one of the scarier parts of the movie. So I thought it was effective. I thought the sorceress woman was one of the stronger actresses in this movie, and I thought that she crushed. So I thought I really liked that. But again, like just collectively as a whole, I thought there was just too much going on in this movie.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm a little more forgiving because again, you're gonna do a Mummy movie, you have to you have to put some twist on it. So like A for effort on this, I guess, like because he really made an effort to do something different. Maybe A is a little strong because I'm not going to be giving an A score, but I'll be giving a good score to this. But yeah, that whole thing. There's a scene in this movie that took me out for all the good stuff he's done in movies. I don't think you caught it, but there's a scene where the detective is tracing the priestess through the desert and they're running full sprint, like arms pumping, and then it cuts and the detective's got her gun up and she's sort of like doing the safe run.
Yeah.
And then the next cut, she's full sprint again. And I was just like, I couldn't believe how much it broke the continuity for me on that one
Mm,
particular thing. I was just like, how did I see that and you didn't, and you
yeah.
didn't see that? Like that was like 80s like B film bad in my opinion.
Mm,
Like it just really really took me out of the scene completely. I was just like, dude, that is like, I know you got to do different cuts and everything, but you start with that or you do that run when she goes around a corner or something, you don't go back to full sprint after that. So it was I'm taking points off for that specific scene
mhm.
because it was just like egregious in my opinion.
Yeah.
And maybe 99% of the audience won't catch it,
Now
but
you will.
anyone that watches this now will definitely see it. But I thought that the priestess stuff was really good, especially the stuff with her daughter, as her daughter was the only one that was still alive. Her husband died when the mummy first broke out. There was a pretty graphic scene at the beginning.
Hmm.
Her two sons die in the plane crash with the mummy,
Hmm.
as they're trying to transport it. And the daughter, she cut her tongue out so that she wouldn't talk again.
The
And
mother
she,
cut the daughter's tongue out.
right, sorry, I pronouns right. The priestess cut her own daughter's tongue out so that she wouldn't talk again because she wanted to tell the truth at one point
Yep.
about what was going on. So you saw how brutal the priestess was, and I do like that little side arc. I know you say the movie's doing too much, but I thought that side arc was real important to the movie because you sort of interweave it throughout the whole movie and you even end on it. And
Hmm.
I really enjoyed the ending of this movie. The sense of doom you felt for that priestess, although you're like, this bitch kind of deserves it. She kind of
Mm.
deserves what's about to come to her.
I didn't like the ending. It's one of my negatives, actually. I thought it was too cookie cutter. Everything just ends the way you think it should. And I don't love that for a horror movie. So I wouldn't call it a happy ending for sure. So it's not, I don't know if I'll take points off for it, but I definitely didn't like it. So we had the resolution, like the climax and the resolution was dark, right? The father assumed the demon to save his daughter, and he's now the corpse thing. And the
He's the
end scene,
mummy, Dave.
I'm not going to say it. So they wheel him in a wheelchair, and the priestess is in the bed, and she's restrained and whatnot. And the ending is they're like, all right, now you get the mummy. It's kind of that, kind of like that. Haha, we win ending. I don't know. It was just sort of like it was too perfect of an ending for me, where I thought it was kind of lame.
I thought it was fine. My problem with it goes back to the scene where she's chasing her
Hmm.
and she shoots her
Yep.
and she looks dead. And they're not like in a city. They were like away from everything.
Hmm.
So if she was bleeding out, that was fatal, right? Like that shot was fatal. So that was like my one problem with it. It's like you established that it looked like the priestess had died. And even if she hadn't died, how was she getting to the hospital? So where's the logic in that?
Yeah.
After taking like a severe shot, I think it was like right in the shoulder, if I remember correctly, or below the shoulder. But yeah, I mean, like even if it's non-fatal at the moment, there was no doctor anywhere close to that.
Well, here's
To
the
that,
thing that like Hollywood has done to gunshots. You think like you ask a person who's seen a lot of movies, like what would you consider to be like a life-threatening gunshot wound? They're gonna be like, oh yeah, the head, the chest, the stomach, maybe. How about literally you get shot anywhere in your body if you're not near a hospital, you are most likely dead.
right?
Anywhere except for like the fleshy
Grazing.
area, yeah, like a graze. But yeah, you get shot in the foot, you're probably dead. You get shot in the leg, you're probably dead. You get shot in the arm, you're probably dead. If you're
Yeah,
especially if you're out in the desert.
in the middle of the desert, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a problem for you
yeah,
if you get shot. So that would be my one critique. It's like if that's what you want to do, don't shoot her, knock her out.
yeah.
You just as easily do the same thing. Have the daughter knock her out
Hmm.
from behind, right?
Yeah.
Like that's I don't know, something like that. Do we have anything else you want to get into with this movie? Any of the special effects or anything?
I love the practical effects. Anytime they use CGI, I wish they didn't. There was a couple. I think there's one very early on where I was like, "Come on, dude." And I'm not against CGI, but it has to be really convincing CGI. And the CGI they used in this was very close to very convincing. But to me, it just stood out a little bit where I'm like, I really just really prefer practical effects, especially the practical effects of this day and age with a movie with this kind of budget and whatnot. So, most of the effects I liked. Visual, like I said, visually, this movie was top tier. I thought it looked very good. One other, and I know we already did the ending, but like one other thing I want to back up to real quick, just to point out, is another thing that I just thought didn't make sense. I liked the scene. It was the wake, the grandmother's wake there. I liked
Yeah.
the scene, but now we have a whole other dynamic that we're introducing to the story. That is, they're the girls biting people. Like mucus is getting into the food, and people are getting like infected now. Like,
Yeah.
this is a curse, right? That needs a ritual, and the person needs to be bound and put in the sarcophagus for the possession to take over. Why is it contagious?
Right.
Right. So it's just another like, what is this? And it just felt a little bit too much like he was trying to be Evil Dead. This is where you got this scene with the people who looked like Deadites, which I want to love, but it was too much going on. It didn't make sense with the story logic.
Yeah. It was a fun scene though. The wake scene was fun and chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy it. I am in agreement with you with the I don't think I think that they should have been bound to the one person,
Mm-hmm.
and that should have been it. I think doing the Deadite stuff was not great. Let's get into some scores. What do you have this at, Dave?
I have this at a 3-4, and it's I wanted to love the movie and I didn't love it. I feel like maybe the bar was set too high in my head. Maybe if I went into this movie completely blind, I would have liked it more. Maybe if it didn't have the Mummy title and they just called it, maybe if it was just another Evil Dead movie, I probably would have liked it more. I don't know, but it just didn't do it for me.
I think if we would have scored this the moment we walked out of the movie theater into the review that night, I think I would have been a 3.5. But I think after just sitting here and like just sitting with the movie for a couple days, I think I'm going to give it a 3.8. I don't think it was a perfect movie by any means. I don't fully love the direction it went with it in some spots, but I also understand how hard it must be to come up with something for a mummy movie and make it scary in 2026. And like, at least he went for it, and visually it was good, effects were good, acting was good. It was an enjoyable movie to watch.
Sound
You
design,
know,
sound design was really good too.
yeah,
That's something
absolutely.
and I don't have a huge body of work from Lee Cronin to be like, oh, this, and this, and this. All I have, and I don't know what else he's done, is this and Evil Dead Rise, and the sound design, and both of these are 5 out of 5.
He only has one other movie. I think it's The Hole in the Ground, and I have not watched that yet, but I am gonna make it a point to try to watch that in the next month or two,
Mm.
just to make sure I'm up to date. Because, like I said, he's doing a paranormal movie next, or that's what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested to see what he does there, because he has to get away from that sort of creature situation and go to a ghostly apparition. And I'm curious what he does with that. But what is you guys' score? Let us know in the comments, either on YouTube, Spotify. Hell, you can even send us an email at hometownghoststories@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. That was Dave. I am Rob. We will catch you next time. Peace.
What was up with the dogs?